Too long, 30 seconds.
She's during comments at the end, so we just left her off. Nobody at all.
I wish they'd do that when I talk.
I will when I start doing the picture.
You know, by the time they get to me, everybody's saying,
Yeah, because you're in the middle.
saying it.
Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order our regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, May 20th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members that have given their lives while defending our country. Would everybody please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Miller, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Walker.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jacobs.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
Councilmember Squires.
Here.
Councilmember Earl.
Here.
Councilmember McCarge.
Here.
Councilmember Kerwin.
Here.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda as presented.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Monday, May 20th, 2019, as presented.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. At this time, I'm going to call up the police chief, Chief Tim Gibbons, for the Police Citizens Academy graduation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm excited tonight to announce the completion of our first Citizen Academy in over 20 years. This is one more program we're adding to increase our efforts to engage with our citizens. We think that citizens who are engaged and informed about the safety of their community can have a tremendous impact on just how safe that community is. So the goal of this academy has been to truly educate those attending about how their police department operates, why we do what we do. And also on our side to find out what those who are interested in learning about our department, what we can do better to serve them in our community. It's a win-win. We teach them, and I think I had a blast teaching the class I taught, and I got a lot of good questions that made me think. So there's a lot of benefit to that interaction. And this one was every Tuesday night for 10 weeks. There was an interaction. We picked a certain topic. I'll have Officer Shippey or Sergeant Shippey up in a second to talk about that. But it was just a tremendous experience, and I really enjoyed meeting everybody, and how excited I am that we have citizens in our community who are this dedicated, that they want to learn about their department and better our community. So tonight I want to thank our graduates and those who volunteered to spend their Tuesday nights with us, and all the officers who taught classes, and particularly Sergeant Shippey, who put this all together, did a tremendous job in organizing it. And I'll turn it over to him right now, and let him explain just a little bit about the curriculum and what we taught over that little bit of time, and then we'll hand out some certificates.
Thank you. Like the chief said, this was a 10-week-long program. It started each Tuesday for about 4 hours. So our members of our community spent 40 hours with us. The nice part is everybody that taught at this community event was from within our department. We have a variety of experts here, and they exposed the members of our community to everything from traffic stops, laws and ordinances, to decision-making, use of force, and so much more. I could spend hours talking about it. I'm appreciative for these 10 people that were here. They not only lent an ear for their community to listen to us and how and why we do things, but they also provided with us a lot of useful information as members of the community. So they told us how we could do some things better, maybe some new approaches to things, but it's just back and forth communication. So I want to thank them for listening to us and for being an active member in their community. So we have some certificates to give out. Thank you.
Face the people here. I want to thank the police department for, and the residents that participated in this academy. I think it's another great thing that we have here in Garden City. It's another thing that makes our city what it is. So the first one is Denise Stabley. We'll take a group picture at the end with everybody. Joseph Zimmerman. Jeffrey Dold. Congratulations. Kimberly Dold. Congratulations. Jennifer Davis. Douglas Carey. Jerry Kumaradis. Hope I didn't. Okay. Congratulations. Paula Jabbar. Carrie Parton. And Mickey Green? Mickey couldn't be here tonight, so we'll make sure that he gets this. You want to do a group picture right here in the center?
Okay.
We're going to recess for a couple minutes so friends and family can congratulate the Academy graduates. So we're going to recess for a couple minutes. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We'll move on to item 7, comments from state and county officials. I see we have Mr. Peterson here from State Representative Jewel Jones's office.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Clerk, Mac, Manager, City Manager Doherty, Dockery. I'll be brief. First, in 1999, Senator John McCain introduced legislation to declare the month of May Military Appreciation Month. So the month of May has been designated as a month that we should recognize veterans, those either people serving, those we've lost, or people who, frankly, have provided service to the armed forces. We should take a moment to thank them for their services. I know whenever I'm in an airport, hotel, store, I see someone in uniform, or if I know they're a veteran, I like to say, thank you for your service. And I think that's important for us to take a moment to do that. We're actually having a celebration in the Senate this week, recognizing the veterans around the state. May is also National Pet Month. So take a moment to recognize our furry friends and the fact that they provide comfort to us. And in many instances are part of our families. I know mine is. And hopefully you also will take some time to appreciate them as well. Last week we were proud to have the Garden City High School Band in the Capitol. They were there last Tuesday and had a tremendous performance. I was very impressed. That's the first time I had an opportunity to hear them play. I played the B-flat clarinet when I was in high school. I doubt if I could play it now, but I was really impressed with their performance. Coincidentally, they also had Special Olympics Day at the Capitol, so people had a chance to appreciate their performance. We took some pictures. The state rep was there with them, so hopefully we'll share those with you. They really served the community well. You could be proud as a city for the performance they provided to the people at the Capitol. The Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, in recognition of the fact that it's difficult for people who are serving, particularly overseas, and to vote. As a matter of fact, her husband, she was inspired to get us to introduce legislation because her husband submitted an absentee ballot. He was based in Afghanistan, and the ballot came back undeliverable, which was, of course, a shock to her. So what we're doing, and we're in fact part of the effort, had a news conference last week talking about this, but she's going to try to establish an internet portal that allows not only service members but family members who are, based overseas to vote electronically. We're going to introduce that legislation as soon as possible. Also, in addition to that, we're going to try to introduce legislation that allows veterans to have free license plates. I've already written a bill in our office, basically, that provides for a $5 fee, but we're going to try to get that to the point where there's no fee at all. The other thing that we're looking at doing is around the country, they've introduced a program called Honor a Vet through the Secretary of State's offices. They're actually already set up in 13 states. But basically what it is you can nominate someone to honor, and you register with the Secretary of State, and there's a special button they'll receive, which is a recognition. And of course, they'll create a registry that also provides some recognition and honor for them. Focus on youth. There's the Department of Natural Resources has a commission. It's called the Youth Advisory Council for Natural Resources. And what this is kids between the ages of 14 and 18 can serve on a commission, a council that meets a couple of times a year. But the idea is to get kids who like the outdoors, who are interested in parks, all of the things that we can do around our great state to enjoy, the fine terrain, wooded areas we have, parks. And they'd like them to make recommendations on things that would improve parks and recreation, particularly for young people. So they could register they can apply with the Department of Natural Resources. There's an online application. They only meet a couple times a year, but they get an opportunity to work in government, see how things get done, and in fact make a contribution at the same time. On the legislative front, probably the most dramatic piece of legislation introduced was the abortion method ban bill. You may have heard about that, but essentially it's legislation that bans what's commonly referred to as D&E abortion, which is dilation and evacuation, which is about 95% of how abortions are performed. There's a lot of controversy with this. The legislation is passed. The governor has said she won't sign it. She'll veto it, and so there's some concern. Our position, we opposed it. We think that a woman should be able to manage her own decision on whether or not to have an abortion. Also, another piece of legislation that might be of interest, we're increasing the reward for the arrest and conviction of people who escape from county jail, which I think is important. That's really all I had. There are a couple other things, but those are the major points. Oh, by the way, Councilman Earl, 4046, the legislation about short-term rentals. Shepherd introduced that last year as well. It didn't go anywhere. We're opposed to it. There are a lot of comments. Most of the city managers and council members around the state oppose it. Just to remind people, this is legislation that essentially would allow short-term rentals, and the local ordinances could not prevent people from establishing those. So there's a lot of support against it. So, and if you'd like, I could give you a lot of the, testimony that okay. Thank you.
From County Commissioner's Office, I see we got Mary McClendon from Wayne County.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, to the Clerk Treasurer, to the City Manager, and to the fine citizens of Garden City. It's a pleasure to be here. I bring you greetings from the office of Wayne County Commissioner Glenn Anderson, and I like coming to Garden City. It's always very interesting, and you meet some really nice people. I won't be before you long, but I just want to remind you of the free senior appreciation dinner that the Commissioner is having, and it's on June the 12th, okay, at 7 p.m., and it's free, and it's at the Burton Manor, 2777 Schoolcraft Road in Livonia. You can join the Commissioner Anderson for a free dinner in honor of all seniors. The event will include pasta, salad, cake, entertainment, prizes, and it's a good time to meet and greet because it's only for District Number 12, which is Inkster, Garden City, and the city of Westland. So you can meet some of the other residents in the other city as well, in other cities as well. So now, I did say seniors. I didn't say high school seniors. I said those for 60 and over. So if that's you, you certainly are invited to come to this event because you're special on this particular day. And it's limited to the first 300 seniors. You must RSVP, and when you call the number of 313-224-8855, and you can only RSVP for 2 individuals. Don't take your whole group or your club or whatever. You can only RSVP for 2 people. Now, I suggest you do this right away. June 12th is coming real fast, and it's only 300 seniors. I do have flyers if anybody would like one, so that you have the phone number and the date as a reminder. Also, I want to remind you that household hazardous waste collection is going to be on Saturday, August the 10th, 8 a.m. until 2 p.m., sponsored by Wayne County. And it's at the Westland Shopping Center, 3500 Warren Road, and of course, that's Westland, and it's behind J.C. Penney's store at the mall. So that's 8 a.m. until 2, Saturday the 10th. I have flyers on that if anybody needs that as well. And one of the things that has come out in the media relative to Wayne County is that the jail site is being considered for an extension of the University of Michigan by Mr. Dan Gilbert. I don't know how far that's going to go, but at least it's being looked at this time. So that's just hot off the press. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure always to be here.
Thank you. Make sure I'm not missing any. Is anybody here from Senator Betty Jean Alexander's office? Okay. Residents, I want you to take note, and I'm going to call them out every time. The election was 6 months ago, last November. We have yet to see Senator Betty Jean Alexander here. So remember this when you go to vote. I mean, she's elected to represent Garden City. They're supposed to come and give us updates on legislation. If you remember, we had Senator David Kniezek. He was here all the time. It's been 6 months. We haven't seen the senator yet. Remember this next time you go to vote. Pick up the phone, call up the Lansing and say, please come to Garden City and fill us in what's going on. I mean, that's our senator, and she's supposed to be representing Garden City, and I'm going to call her out for not being here. I've asked her numerous times to come here and talk to the residents of Garden City what's going on in Lansing. Numerous times. She's not here again tonight. So please note this. Make phone calls. Okay, I'm done with that. And I'm sure I'll hear about it too, but I don't care. We'll move on to community events, Parks and Recreation, Dance Express.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I touch on announcement about the Dance Express program, I wanted to take a moment and mention to everyone here and in attendance, tomorrow we kick off the Ready, Set, Run program. This is one of the new programs Parks and Rec introduced. This is a 12-week program. We have 12 kids signed up. It'll take place on Tuesday evenings at Farmington Elementary for boys and girls 8 to 13. We will take walk-up registrations tomorrow. This is a curriculum-based program that includes a free registration for the Bacon Run. So for anyone that's looking for a program for the summertime for their son or daughter, 8 to 13, we'll be meeting at Farmington Elementary in the open grass area there by Roslyn and Farmington Road. If you have questions, you can call Parks and Rec. And the main reason I'm here tonight is to mention to everybody that as we approach recital season, I'm here to talk about one of the jewels of the Parks and Rec Department and of the community, the Dance Express program, and introduce one of the instructors of that program. Her name is Heather Lesbrance, and she has been an instructor with the Garden City Dance Express program for 15 years. And she is here tonight to talk about the awesome recital coming up, and she's brought some guests with her. And I think she has about 8 or 9 presents to hand out to some folks around the table here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Heather. You're welcome.
Bring this down. Hello, good evening. Like you said, my name is Heather Lesbrance, and I'm a dance instructor for Garden City Parks and Recreation Dance Express. On behalf of myself and my daughter here, Layla, who dances there, and Emily, who is an assistant with us there and a dancer there, we would like to invite all of you to our annual Dance Express recital. It's coming up on Wednesday, June 12th, and Thursday, June 13th at 7 o'clock at Garden City High School, and it is going to be called The Greatest Show, which it will be. So my daughter Layla would like to come up and pass out some tickets for you all. Would you like to go up there and pass them out? Okay.
Thank you.
Heather, I remember when you were that young.
I know.
Heather's mom was a secretary at Parks and Recreation for many years,
Yep.
so, and then Heather, so Heather was around a lot, but she is a fantastic teacher.
Thank
so
you.
I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
that you're still with us.
Thank you. Yes, we enjoy it. So thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. It's
Short
an
and sweet.
excellent
Thank
program.
you. It really is. Thank
My
you. And I
granddaughter
teach
dances.
Sophia too.
Yep.
So I love her. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, next is communications. I have a few things. First one, I want to take a moment to welcome the students from Garden City High School here tonight to experience local government and report back to their government class. So thanks for all you for being here. Appreciate it. Next, like I mentioned a few meetings before, I monitor Facebook. I never comment on Facebook. I comment here. One of the things I was seeing on one of the crime pages is a lot of cars getting checked and broken into, and we caught one of them. So I want to report back to the residents because they think, well, what's the police department doing? So over the last month, Garden City has seen an uptick in thefts from motor vehicles. Garden City Police Department is aware of this and has taken steps to address the issue. On May 13th, a suspect was located and arrested for breaking into vehicles in the area of Roslyn and Shatka. Officers in the area were notified by an observant citizen about a subject approaching vehicles on their street. A quick response and thorough investigation by Garden City PD officers allowed for an apprehension of the suspect and the discovery that he had committed numerous thefts from motor vehicles in the area. Ultimately, the person was charged with several felonies and is currently in police custody awaiting trial. Theft from a motor vehicle is a common problem in suburban neighborhoods and is typically a crime of opportunity. Thieves prey on unlocked vehicles on dark streets. To help prevent these thefts, Garden City PD asks that citizens keep their vehicles locked and their porch light and garage lights on overnight. This lessens the likelihood that thieves will choose to steal in Garden City. Also, the police department greatly encourages the reporting of any suspicious activity or theft. Often this type of crime goes unreported because it does not involve a large sum of money or a significant item being taken. But by reporting these incidents in a timely manner, the police department can better gather data to track when and where the crimes are occurring. This allows for more effective police patrols to stop these crimes from occurring and apprehend the persons responsible. 2018 saw the lowest year for thefts from motor vehicles in recent history, seeing a 50% decrease compared to the previous 5-year average. With continued help from the community, Garden City Police Department believes we can reduce the number of these crimes even further in 2019. So we're asking you to keep your lights on, and if you see something, call it in, because more people that call in, we can, like I said, we can track it, we can narrow it down, we can catch these guys. We caught one on May 13th. And lock your doors. Yeah, too many people leave their car doors unlocked. Lock your vehicles at night. So I wanted to get that out to the community that we do catch them. We don't catch all of them, but it's important that you know that we catch them and we do patrol and look for them. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 10, the public hearing on the general appropriations and tax levy ordinance. Mr. Doherty?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. For this evening's budget presentation, I'd like to start off by mentioning a couple of things from our current year budget, namely roads and equipment. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the voters of Garden City for their support of the roads vote. As with the whole state of Michigan, our roads are in dire need of repair, but unlike the past, thanks to our voters, we can finally do something about it. I have no doubt that history will record that the renaissance of Garden City was started with the passage of the 2018 roads vote. To keep our promise to the voters to move swiftly in getting the road work completed, as we said we would, I'd like to note that we said the road bids would be put out in December, and the road bids were put out in December. Would like to say that we said we'll accept the construction bids in January. We accepted the bids in January. We said City Council will approve the bids in February. City Council approved the bids in February, and we said construction would start by the middle of April. In the middle of April, construction began across the city. So keeping the trust of the population and the residents is of utmost importance to us, and we're on our way. You'll see some of the slides change as we go through. There's 4 road construction techniques that we're currently employing. Concrete reconstruction, that's when we fully replace a concrete road. Asphalt reconstruction, which is when we replace the full asphalt road. And both of these treatments, we also try to replace the underground sewer and water lines also. Concrete sectioning and patch repairs, that's when we cut out sections of the roadway and replace small areas with concrete. A few of these roads are already completed for this year. Joint and crack sealing is when we seal cracks and joints on asphalt and concrete roads to stop further deterioration. As you can see, this summer's road work consists of areas all across the city. And that being said, I hope to bring to the council some additional ideas in the next month or so of how we may be able to do a whole lot more road work than we're even scheduled for this year. As for the replacement of vehicles, the fiscal year 2018-2019 was very productive. Between police vehicles, fire vehicles, and public works vehicles, many pieces of the city fleet were able to be replaced. Fortunately, all the public works trucks and vehicles were purchased through a special street fund in which the money could not be used for anything else other than items related to the roads. The youngest piece of equipment replaced this past year was a 14-year-old pickup truck that's used every day, all day. The oldest piece of equipment we replaced this past year was a 1987 10-yard dump truck that was 32 years old. And as you can see on the slide up right now, we're waiting for the arrival of our new sewer vac that's going to replace our 28-year-old sewer vac driving around the city now. And that's going to be bright orange and beautiful. As for the fiscal year budget 2019-2020, you'll immediately notice several details of the budget have been fully reorganized. First of all, several funds that were previously shown as separate funds but were heavily subsidized by the general fund are now being consolidated into Fund 101, which is the general fund. These funds include 205 public safety, 219 street lighting, 233, 235, and 249, the building and planning. The activity from these funds are still being reported as separate departments within general fund, but they're no longer be considered special funds that need their own line item. This can be done because the general fund must subsidize these departments more than the special assessment. The fund no longer needs to be broken out. An example would be public safety. The general fund subsidizes 80% of the expenses, which means that there's nothing left in the fund from the public safety special assessment at the end of the year. All the money the city receives from public safety millage is spent exclusively on public safety. Therefore, there's no money left in the fund at the end, so no money is to be put anywhere else. The major and local road funds are examples of 2 funds in which the city does not subsidize. Therefore, major and local road funds were not consolidated into the general fund this year and must stay split out as special funds. As a note about public safety special assessment, the assessment must be renewed within the next year, or else we need to reduce next year's budget by a total of about $1.7 million. Now that we're able to start to invest in our city's infrastructure, that was let go for many years, of course, and bring our police and department, fire departments to full staffing levels, I recommend that we ask the voters to continue the public safety assessment at next election in November, of which we'll talk about in the next few meetings. Another great change to the budget is that within departments, some sub-departments have also been consolidated. For example, in DPS Fund 444 has been eliminated, and activity is now reported in Fund 467. What happened here is that Fund 444 included the operational costs of managing the DPS Building and Grounds Division. Fund 467 included the cost of personnel to do the work of the Building and Grounds Division. So we had 2 funds. One was for staff, the other was for the tools for the staff. So for more efficiency in our budget, we've now consolidated those 2 funds together. Within the fire department, there used to be 3 funds. Fund 337 Fire Administration, 339 Fire Suppression, and 341 Fire Marshal. Since the Fire Marshal Fund essentially includes similar information as the Fire Administration Fund, we've now consolidated Funds 341 into 337, thereby again making the budget easier to understand. Another major change this year included the consolidation of personnel back into one fund. Previously, certain individuals who were affected by multiple sub-departments had their wages and fringes split between those multiple sub-departments. This year, those employees' expenses have been kept intact into one single sub-department. One example of this would be the Parks and Recreation Director. His salary in the past was split between 3 divisions: administration, ice rink, and programs. Now he's only budgeted in administration. Again, this was a decision to make the budget more transparent and more user-friendly. To better understand the use of capital outlay, all requests are also being moved now from the department budgets to where they were in the past and placed under Fund 401, the CIP fund. Excluding the water and sewer fund and the major and local road funds, all capital purchases will now be included in Fund 401. This change will allow, again, for more transparency and make decision-making easier as to priority funding. So rather than Fund 401 having a list of capital projects and purchases just mixed together like the past, the fund now will list each department with 4 categories exclusively: buildings and grounds, equipment, vehicles, and technology. The budget also includes the addition of 2 new funds. The first fund includes Capital Outlay Fund 405, which was designed to separately manage the road bonds and expenses. As indicated on the slide in front of you, this year we plan to spend nearly more than $5.5 million on road construction. In addition, a new fund, Fund 260, has also been created, and that takes care of the grant revenue and expenditures from the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, the MIDC. This is a new annual grant that the city and the courts are receiving that's relating to expenses in the court and police fees when it comes to indigent counsel. Employee changes. Also already included in tonight's budget request is the adjustment of a few employees in several departments. In the police department, with safety in mind, we have added 1 new police officer. In the communications department, which helps us promote city activities as well as inform our residents of potential dangers in the city, 1 employee, after serving Garden City for many years, is moving from part-time to full-time. To expand events and programming for our residents of all ages, the Parks and Recreation Department will see the addition of a 29-hour part-time employee focused on community activities. And by the way of great change in the City Clerk Treasurer Department, we're moving the Deputy Treasurer position to be the City Treasurer. This position is not a new position, but is a promotion to the Deputy Treasurer position in our attempt to begin splitting the Clerk Treasurer into 2 departments, the Clerk Department and then the Treasurer Department. As indicated in the historical taxable value chart, you notice that for the 2nd year in a row, there's been just short of a 1% gain in overall property value of the city. Anytime there's an increase, no matter how small, is a good thing. This year, we see an increase in the overall property value of the city of Garden City of about $22 million. Now, that isn't an increase in our taxes of $22 million. It just means that all of our 11,000 plus properties in the city added together went up in value of $22 million. On the next slide, you'll notice that the submitted budget includes a general fund of expenditures totaling just over $20.1 million. As indicated, property taxes are 49% of the revenue brought in to the overall budget. State sources of revenue, including state shared resources such as sales tax, is the 2nd highest source of revenue. On the next slide, you'll notice that the general fund expenditures are around $21.35 million. As evident, public safety is the city's biggest expense at 50%, with general government, which includes city council, administration, clerk treasurer, communications, that's about 17%. So in considering the general fund balance, we do not know yet what the end of the year will bring us. We're expecting a break even or possibly a slight increase to putting more money into the general fund. But at this point, you'll see 2019 is balanced evenly with 2018. Dropping down for 2020 is for the budget that you see this evening, where we're looking at a supplemental of about $1.2 million from our fund balance. That's where you see the drop down. At the end of next year, as always, as is traditionally done, the year-end net increase should bring that fund balance back up to where it is at least now, if not even higher, as we continue a trend to move upward. I should note that as we're completing the composition of this budget, 2 major negative financial issues came about. First of all, the SAFER grant in the amount of $160,000, which helped Garden City pay for 2 firemen, is no longer available to us. So now that that grant has come to an end, we had to reorganize our infrastructure repairs and plans to keep our fire department staff at full capacity. In addition, the Michigan Headley Amendment, Garden City received $100,000 less than we should have received through our property taxes. Great for taxpayers, but as you develop a community, that's money that we were hoping for that is now gone. So therefore, our budget that you're looking at now was composed with dealing with a reduction of $260,000 that we initially hoped that we would have. So after all the changes we made this year to make the budget easier to understand and more transparent, as well as 3 budget workshops that we had over the last 2 months that included more budget and department detail than I believe the council has seen in years, I feel very positive about offering to the mayor and city council this evening the city manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Doherty. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing on the budget. Anybody wishing to make a comment or a statement, it is not the time to go back and forth with questions. You can ask a question, and we'll answer it later at the roundtable. Anybody wishing to speak, make a comment on the budget? Public hearing. Yes, ma'am. You got to come to the podium, ma'am. You have to come to the podium, state your name. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. At this time, we'll move on to the water and sewer rate public hearing. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Tonight is the public hearing to determine the 2019-20 water and sewer rates. At the budget study session on April 18th, Plant Moran did present to you a water rate study and went into great detail of how the recommendation was developed. And basically, I'm just going to break down the increases that are proposed and then give you an example of kind of what this will do to a regular water bill. For example, the water rate is proposed to go from $26.93 to $27.87 per 1,000 gallons, which would be a 94-cent increase. And for the sewer disposal rate, the proposal is to go from $48.68 to $50.38 for 1,000 gallons, which would be $1.70 per 1,000 gallons. And also it is proposed to increase the fixed user rates to go from $57.62 to $61.69. That fixed cost, as you recall, is a daily charge for the actual cost of the pipes really being in the ground, the fixed cost of the system. And I kind of calculated an average bill for a 3-person household. So what all these numbers mean maybe will help. Basically, about 11 units is used in a 3-person household. That is 8,228 gallons of water in a 2-month period, 60 days. So the current bill with the current charges would be $102.14, and with this proposed increase, it would go to $106.38, so a $4.24 increase bi-monthly for that. As you can recall, the last couple of years, there's not been an increase to the supply charges. There has been a small increase to the fixed rates that have been before you. Also, we're continually monitoring the cost from Wayne County, and Wayne County has begun to review the Rouge Valley sewer system charges, and these discussions are progressing. As they do, I will keep the council informed. So on the horizon, we may need to revisit the sewage costs if an increase is proposed by Wayne County that our current system can't absorb. So I just wanted to put that out there. There's been discussion with Wayne County and the sewage disposal charges, so we don't have any real numbers, so they can't be part of this ordinance, but I did want to bring that to you. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the water and sewer rates.
Anything from the table? Yeah, we're going to hold the public hearing now. Anybody wishing to speak on the water and sewer rates?
I don't want to comment on anything. I'm either doing something right or I'm going to get one heck of a sticker shock when I get a bill, from what he just said. That'd be like a $40 increase for me for 2 months. So evidently I'm doing something right now, or I'm really going to get stuck.
$4.
It was a $4.24.
Every 2 months.
$4 every 2 months.
Well, I'm talking about the price that he quoted, the average. I'm saying I'm either doing something right because I must be way below the average bill, or I'm going to get shocked. I don't know which one it is yet, but hopefully I'm doing something
You're
right.
doing something right.
Anybody else wishing to speak on the water and sewer rate? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. Move on to item 11, the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda, items 11A 1 through 6.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. Moving on to our action item, B section. First one is 2019-20 budget.
Mayor,
Councilmember Squires.
I move to adopt the fiscal year 2019 to 2020 general appropriations and tax levy ordinance. Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any comments on the table, from the table?
Mayor?
Councilmember McCarch.
I do have a few comments to make concerning the budget, and I'm not a real good public speaker, so I did write some of my notes down, so excuse me. I have been involved in the city budget process for many years. As in the past, departments gave the city manager their budget recommendations. Not all of them were accepted. That is nothing new. I liked how the departments presented what they currently did and what resources they needed to continue to expand this year. Presentations were excellent. I had some concerns about budget requests. The fire department's original requests were cut, with some purchases delayed until next year. I agreed with that delay. In the Major Streets Division, I'm concerned with the large and I believe excessive jump in equipment purchases. The budget includes a $386,500 increase over what we paid last year in equipment purchases. I feel that some of these purchases should be delayed too. This year we purchased 12 new vehicles that we desperately needed. I think that we need to slow down. Last year, we hired a fire marshal. This year, we planned originally at our budget meetings on hiring 2 additional police officers, an additional full-time communications person, and a full-time recreation supervisor. Last week, we found out that the SAFER grant that had paid for a fireman was not renewed. Hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have hired a fire marshal when we were still so dependent on grants for firemen. The city manager called me, and a long story made short, eventually stated the Parks and position was being pulled in order to fund the fire position. I asked that we have another public budget meeting, and was told that the mayor said there was not enough council members who wanted to have this meeting. Majority rules. I indicated to the mayor that I would voice my concerns at this public meeting. I wanted to have the public meeting to discuss what options we had. Out of 4 positions, why the parks position? According to the National Parks Association, our staffing for Parks and Recreation is in the lowest quadrant nationally. I'm a retired Parks and Recreation director. But in 2011, when I was helping to prepare my last city budget, I supported drastic cuts in the Parks Department due to the financial situation we were in. I thought of the city as a whole, something I continue to do. I also wanted to discuss in public what personnel cuts meant for programming. As I have stated several times, you cannot offer programs without the staff and resources to do so. My concern in regards to all staff is that demands put on them be reasonable. We have all worked those long 14, 16-hour days, but administrators should not have to work 10, 11-hour days, 5, 6 days a week for just normal day-to-day activities. This year, I have heard too many people question the work of our staff. They do not have any idea what that work involves. The city manager called me and told me the solution to the staffing at the recreation department. There will be 2 part-time programmers instead of a full-time supervisor. Part-time personnel tend to move on to better jobs. I think I was one of the only ones that didn't move on, but I had a young family and didn't want a full-time job. But I was also educated and had a degree in recreation even as a part-timer. Yes, a full-time position comes with benefits, so it costs more. If we want professional level administrators in any department, we need to make sure that compensation is a professional level. Again, I want to stress that public meetings are important, and the Open Meetings Act make them legally mandated. The best way to know what council members are thinking is in a public setting. Thank you.
Okay, I got a few comments I want to say. First, I want to thank the city manager and the department heads for all the work they did in preparing the budget. We had several budget meetings, and when we found out that we were losing the grant for the firefighter, we had to drop out the second full-time position for the Parks and Rec. And I understand, Councilmember McCarge, that you used to be the director of Parks and Rec, and it's near and dear to your heart. I get that. But I felt, as well as my colleagues here at the table, that a firefighter position comes before a second person in Parks and Rec. And I asked each one of them individually if they wanted to have another budget meeting, and you were the only one that wanted it. Six no's and 1 yes. So I'm not a king, I don't rule, I go by majority. The majority of the council did not want to have another budget meeting. We felt that the fire position comes before a second Parks and Rec, and that's why I didn't call a special meeting, and I just want to explain that to the residents. Anybody else have any comment?
Could I make another comment?
Councilmember Jacobs?
I agree with the budget. I will always put public safety above Parks and Rec. We do not neglect Parks and Rec. We have put $2 million into Parks and Rec, which is more than any other department in the city, including with all the purchases of DPS. So we've put more money into it. At this time, we don't know if all the new programs are going to take off. If they don't take off, we're still going to be paying a full-time employee there for the next 20 years. And that position costs more than the firefighter. It costs probably twice as much as a communications person we're hiring. So I think that's well worth it. The fire marshal, we have buildings that are unsafe, and he's already proved gotten his money's worth by doing some of his inspections. So as far as Parks and Rec, they have 8 or 9 part-timers. We're going to give them 2 more. I think we can get quality people. My recommendation is go to some of the colleges that have recreation classes and offer some part-time spots. I'm sure there'd be a lot of people that would be really interested getting paid for basically an internship to work the summer and maybe in the fall. So right now, my position is the public safety is more important than the Parks and Rec.
Mayor?
Councilman, let me just correct. It's 1 extra part-time person. The other part-time was to replace we had a part-time person, we're going to full-time. We've added a part-time, not 2, just 1. Just one clarify.
Councilmember McCarge?
I'm sorry that you misheard me, because my comment wasn't about the Parks and Rec position. It was about not having a public meeting to discuss major changes in the budget. We never discussed, other than maybe you guys behind closed doors, anything about the communications department, about what could, if money from the fund balance could be used. All of those things, all of those decisions were made behind closed doors.
No,
That
they
is
weren't.
what
No, they
I'm
weren't.
saying.
I don't-
That is what I'm saying.
They were at the same
Mayor?
meeting.
Councilmember Kerwin.
I'm new to council. I've only been here almost 2 years. I know that I have not been behind closed doors. When you start throwing that out there, it makes me very nervous.
Were you polled to see what department, were you asked what position you wanted eliminated? If you did, that is a closed meeting, because he can't ask all of us and to vote behind closed doors. That is a
Nobody
closed
voted.
meeting.
Nobody voted.
This is the public meeting right now that we're discussing. No decisions could be made behind closed doors. Tonight's the public meeting. I have to present a budget that makes sense. So when we're looking at a cut of 160, 260, the question just in general, talking to council individually, what their interest was one way or the other, it just helps in putting this together. It doesn't make a final decision. Tonight's the decision by the council. There is no vote that's done behind closed doors. But certainly what I present, I'm able to talk to all the council individually about anything. Then what I present to the council is a consideration for the council. That's where we are
This
tonight.
decision was made,
I'd like to finish talking. So I was not behind closed doors for that. That did not happen. I don't like that being thrown out there because I don't want any part of that. As a resident of the city, I would like a fireman over a full-time Parks and Rec.
did I say that?
It's my turn to talk. We did, well, from my knowledge, Dan was talked to, and we're going to look into that next year. I love everything that you're doing over there. I think all the residents love what you're doing over there. With so many brand-new programs, I think it would be smart to see how it goes this year. If we get a ton of kids signed up and families signed up for these programs, absolutely. But this full-time person would be paid a substantial amount of money as a union employee. And you can't just fire them if the programs don't work out. So I would like to see how it's going and then offer that position on the next budget. But as a resident, I would like a fire person in my city.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Mayor,
Councilmember Earl.
first, to the city manager, good job on the whole budget process, and to all the department heads, I thought you guys did a really good job of presenting it. It was a lot more easy to understand this year than it was last year, and I appreciate that. As far as this requested meeting, I think the charter speaks to how it's supposed to go. The mayor can call for one, or a majority of the council. The only way to find out if a majority of the council wants it is for the mayor to call to see or to ask if we want it. I didn't want it. I don't need it. I've been through all the budget talks. I've understood what was said. I understood our position financially, which is a really good position financially, especially going around talking to other cities around here. Garden City is really in a very good position financially. For me, I'm a public safety guy, and I felt that the fire department, every department took cuts years ago. Every single department took cuts. That's why we had to replace all these vehicles this year, is because, quite frankly, they were not efficient, and they needed to be replaced. I felt that the fire department, looking through the history, really seems to have kind of been, I'm not going to say ignored, but some of the things that they've really needed for safety's sake had to happen. And I'm in full support of that. The fire marshal is a very important position. I would never suggest cutting a firefighter, knowing that these guys go out 2 men at a time, when back in the day they used to be 6, 7, 8 men at a time. You got to have them. There's no way I would ever support cutting that. And so I appreciate it. I'm in support of the budget as it is right now. Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember McCarthy.
just want to make sure that people understand that at no time did I say that I put the position of firefighter ahead of a new Parks and Rec person. At no time. So I think that we all up here believe the same thing. just like in 2011, when they cut the Parks and Rec Department by 75%, and I supported that because safety is the most important part of the city. But I'm also, what I'm saying, I'm coming back to it, this discussion could have been done at a budget meeting. Okay, it's being done here. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but I think that my biggest concern is that we, do not have the debate that we had in our budget meetings. So, yes, that is a concern. Maybe it was mislaid by me because we can debate it right out here. But I do not want to be misrepresented saying that safety is not one of my priorities, because it is. So that needs to be made clear. And I've done it for the last 20 years, not just, But also, one of the things that I was mentioned, and I just have a question because it was brought up in the budget meeting, and that is, and it's the, under employee changes, under that we have a city treasurer. I need to know, I was always told.
It is, yeah, I'll catch you
Okay,
before you
wait
even
a
say
minute.
it.
I was always told the charter was our legal
Yes.
document, and according to the charter,
Yep.
so I need to know what our city attorneys are saying about the fact that we're changing and I'm not saying.
Not changing. Yeah, that position would be under the city treasurer, city clerk treasurer. It would still be the same model until later we go through the vote to actually separate the departments. This is just the title itself of going from deputy treasurer to calling them actually a treasurer. So they're overseeing more of the finance, but it still would fully fall under, it would not be changing the charter.
So
Correct.
I'm totally, I thought you changed the charter before you changed what you.
We're not changing the charter at all. It's the city clerk treasurer office that's in the charter, that's still in the charter.
So we have
It's
a
positions
city-
underneath.
So we
Yeah.
have a city clerk treasurer at the time.
Yes, we still do and we will next year.
And he is able to do all the treasury stuff? Or do
you're
we
still-
have or do we have an
Yeah.
advisor coming in and doing it?
We're hiring this position. We're moving from a deputy treasurer position, changing it to a treasurer
So we'll have
instead of
two
deputy.
treasurers.
Well, the title will be clerk treasurer for his position, but we'll hire a qualified treasurer that will still be underneath that umbrella. So it won't be in violation
So
of
we
the
have two
charter.
treasurers.
Well, by title, if you'd like, you also have a clerk.
So
and that
that's-
oversees the building department,
I
but
really would like to see our attorneys, because
okay.
truthfully, that's always what I was in, when I was working. It was always
Can't change the
charters
charter.
and ordinances are the law of the land, and
Yes.
we have to follow them.
yes, and we're not violating the charter. The charter is not changing today or tomorrow.
I'd like a legal,
It's not changing because he's the clerk treasurer. Underneath him is a deputy treasurer as well as a bunch of other positions. That deputy treasurer, we're going to consider them as a true treasurer. So when we go to hire someone for that open
a
position.
true treasurer, which we don't have now.
No, we don't. We have a deputy treasurer now. Instead of hiring a lower person, and as we make the split, now we're stuck with a lower person that's going to be our treasurer, we'd probably be better to hire someone who's a full-blown treasurer instead of a deputy, but they're still under his direction, which means the charter just says there's a city clerk treasurer department. It doesn't say who's underneath and how it works out. So we're not in violation of any charter whatsoever. You're absolutely correct in saying you can't make a change to the charter without changing the charter by vote. We're not changing the charter. We're not even circumventing the charter.
So we're having
changing a
two
deputy.
treasurers.
We're changing a deputy treasurer to, if we're going to hire someone today in the open position, we don't want to hire someone who's a deputy treasurer. We might as well hire a full treasurer if the objective is to split those departments. Otherwise, when we split the departments, we're going to be stuck with someone who's a deputy treasurer who's now going to be the full treasurer. It probably makes sense to make the change
How
now.
long does it take to change the charter?
Well, we're looking to put it up in November for the election as a charter change. Yep.
I just want to reiterate to the residents, there was no closed meeting. I don't even like that being said. We don't operate like that. We're going to vote on the budget tonight in front of all of you and on TV. The vote's tonight on the budget, so. Any other comments from the table?
I was
Councilmember
just going to
Lynch.
concur with my fellow council members. I think most of us find, including Councilmember McCarge, because I didn't hear her say it wasn't that way, we all find that police, fire, and safety needs to be number one in our community. Because that's, first of all, that's who we are in Garden City. we take that position or those positions very seriously. And if we didn't, we wouldn't have gone out for millage before. So that is our true number one. When you budget for an entire year, there are things that you wish you could add in. There are things that you have hanging there, thinking that if things go right, maybe we can add them in at a later point in time. I think council did a very good job of trying to balance everything that was presented. There's a couple more positions I would have loved to have included in. We didn't have the money this time through. So when it comes back around in another year, hopefully you'll see another position, maybe 2 more positions. But for right now, I think we can run our community. We have about 28,000 people. I think we can run our community on the budget that we have and serve the residents of Garden City just exactly the way they need to be served, which is a fine job that our people do, our directors, our staff. They do an excellent job serving the residents. And when it comes to the charter, and it says that the mayor can call a meeting, we had 3 budget meetings. I heard everything that I needed to hear as well. And when he didn't call a meeting, then it was up to 5 members. And the only way to find out if 5 members want to call it is somebody has to ask. And I too said no, because we had all the meetings that we needed, and the little bit that needed to be hashed out tonight, as you can tell, was already hashed out. So, thank you.
Okay. Okay, did we have a motion?
Yes.
On the budget, and a second?
Yes.
Okay, any further comments from the table, from the general public?
I think we had a little miscommunication, Chair. And Ms. McCarty, I don't have any doubt in my mind about you and public safety or none of the rest of them, because I know better. And I think we just have a little miscommunication, Chair, for some reason. Let's don't get back into what used to happen a few years ago, I hope.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Budget passes 6-1. Item 2, the water and sewer rates.
Mayor?
Councilmember Earl.
Yes, sir. I move to adopt the ordinance and amend sections 53.03 and 53.04 of Chapter 53, Title 5 of the City of Garden City Code, providing for rates and charges for water and sewer service and providing for billing for water and sewer disposal services.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 3, Neighborhood Stabilization Program Housing Rehabilitation Contract. Mr. Miller, you want to say a few words on that?
Yes. Good evening. This is a proposal before you, a recommendation for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program Housing Rehabilitation Contract. And what we did is about 5 years ago, the county started what was called the Right of First Refusal Program. 3 years ago, the council awarded the contract for the rehabilitation and the sale of the homes to 2 agencies. One was JSR and the other was Enterprising Realty. And so their contract is going to end June 30th of this year. So I put out a RFQ to receive proposals for the rehabilitation of homes through the Right of First Refusal program. We did receive 4 proposals, and I reviewed all 4 of them. One coming from JSR themselves. We do have a history with them, but I did review thoroughly each proposal, and I felt that making a change to HP Snap investment would be warranted via my recommendation. Some of the things, and actually what's scrolling on the screen before you, is some examples of some of the homes that HP Snap has renovated. So if you want to just kind of peruse through those as I'm discussing some of the benefits, it's also in your packet too. But HP Snap, in their proposal, has 40 full-time employees working for them, all focused on the housing rehabilitation and sale through the right of first refusal program and also purchasing of foreclosed homes. They've participated in more than 400 rehabilitations. They're working currently in 8 other cities in southeast Michigan. They offer an in-house mortgage broker, in-house realtors, and also in-house contractors. They're projecting to spend about $45,000 per home for their rehab costs, and then they will be marketing the homes via MLS plus Zillow, also through their company website. They also work with Mishta to provide down payments for first-time home buyers, and they also, in our contract, are required to sell to 100% homeowner occupied. Also tonight from HP Snap is Jake Woods. He's in the audience there, working for the owner. And I thought there would just be less of a breakdown in the process with the defined connection between the city and the contractor. When I talked to his boss, Jake's boss, P.D. Danik, we do have a good, I think we'll develop a good rapport. I'll be able to direct all my issues through him, and then we'll be able to solve them quickly, as opposed to going through subcontractors, those kinds of things. So it is my recommendation to approve the contract with HP Snap for a 3-year program to handle our right of first refusal from Wayne County.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Councilmember Lynch?
I know that the first year that we did the housing rehab, we had quite a few houses on the list. Since then, it's dwindled down to very few houses. If over the next 2 years, 3 years, all of a sudden the number of houses go up, are you looking at possibly adding another company to the mix? Or is that a possibility, I guess I should say?
It is a possibility.
Okay.
If one of the items I put in the RFQ was for a capacity, actually, to see if they could handle, and actually HP Snap put in they could handle about 25 homes. So that's kind of, I think they're projecting. Of course, if they pick up 25 homes here, 1 home or 4 homes, I don't know what will happen. But at any time, if they feel that they can't make the capacity, I would make a recommendation, because I don't want the houses to linger because they're eyesores in the neighborhood. As soon as we get them, I'm going to be forging ahead to get those houses closed and the rehab started as soon as possible. And that's the goal of the project, and to remove the eyesore and blight to the neighborhood.
Yeah. And real quick, if the first year we did this 5-6 years ago, the county foreclosed on 17 houses, and we had the first right of refusal, and we purchased them. That's when we had the council chambers packed. I don't know, you know, and I think over the last few years, the county has done a lot better at communicating and letting these people know you're going to lose your house, you know, get on the payment program. Plus, I think the combination of the economy getting better. But we went from 17 that first year to what, 1 this year?
1 this year.
So we only had 1 house this year. But again, if you see the pictures, and the pictures were like that on those 17 homes too, when you refurbish that many homes, it brings the property values back up in the neighborhood, so, which helps everybody. Nobody wants to live next door to a house that's, you know, blight. So this is a great program. I think they're doing a lot better at communicating with people and helping them get on payment programs. But if they end up foreclosing, we do have the first right, and we're going to use this program to keep our neighborhoods looking great. And that's what this whole program's about. Councilmember Jacobs.
Yes, Mr. Miller, the only thing I would have liked to have seen is what the bids were. Usually we get what all the companies bid, and that's not in here. So I would have liked to have seen that.
They didn't bid a price, though. It was just for their qualifications.
That was it?
That was all. And actually, in the program, it's even built into where there's not a minimum or a maximum of how much they'll spend. The contract that we enter into is that they will do a full rehabilitation to bring the house to code. So that, you know, that will vary depending on it. The number I gave, you know, the $45,000 is an average of rehab costs. And with that, then on top of it, we can't even keep any of any of the funds. So the city really is a pass-through of the cost. So we acquire it for a cost, which is the back taxes. We sell it to them for the cost, and then the rehab. The goal of the project, again, is to remove the blight and increase the property values.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that to the residents. The city does not make a penny off these houses. If $10,000 in back taxes is owed, that's what we purchased the house from the county, $10,000. And then we sell it to these companies for $10,000, and they put $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in it. And then when they sell it for $100,000, $110,000, that's where they make their money. But the winner comes out, the property owners on that street. The property values go up. So it's a win-win for the city. It gets rid of blight. Otherwise, these houses would just stay blighted. And but I just want to make sure the residents know the city doesn't make a dime on these houses. Any other comments from the table? From the general public? I thought we had one.
Nope.
No, all right, motion's in order.
Mayor?
Councilmember Squires.
I move to approve a contract with HP Snap Investments, Redford, Michigan, for Neighborhood Stabilization Program Housing Rehabilitation for a 3-year period until June 30th, 2022.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. The last item, Police Task Force Agreement. I'm going to call up Chief Tim Gibbons. Police Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight before you, I have an agreement with the Drug Enforcement Administration. It's to place an officer with the Southeast Michigan Regional Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. It's no secret that Southeast Michigan's been hit pretty hard by the opioid crisis. We're taking a lot of steps here at the police department locally to address it. Officers are carrying Narcan. We've begun a partnership with Hope Not Handcuffs. We're going to be getting them here as a resource for addicts when they come to the police department. But another component of that is fighting this battle. It's organized crime and gangs that bring heroin and fentanyl into our community. What this agreement will allow me to do is assign an officer to that task force to begin our participation in that in the Southeast Michigan area. This is a special unit formed by the Drug Enforcement Administration that brings together a lot of resources that we would then become part of. And so when we have an overdose or a drug incident that's connected to a greater thing, we'd have the ability to investigate that, dismantle those organizations both financially and criminally, and some of it which will involve us being an equitable sharing, so forfeiture dollars and things that are claimed in those circumstances, Garden City would be a part of. So I'm just asking for approval of that tonight. What this would really do is just get the process started, allow me to assign an officer. He'd begin a background. We'd still be months away to actually participating, but because of the nature of the work, it's an extensive background. That's the reason for my timeliness on getting this approved post the budget, just to get the process moving. We wouldn't actually be assigning the officer out there till the end of the next budget year.
Okay. Motion's in order. Councilmember Jacobs.
I move to approve the attached agreement between the Garden City Police Department and the Drug Enforcement Administration, allowing Garden City PD to join the Southeast Michigan Regional Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. I think it's a great program, Chief. Any other comments from the table? From the general public?
Great job, Chief.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. At this time, we'll move on to public comments. This is for items that were not on the agenda tonight. Please come to the podium, state your name. There is a 3-minute time limit. This is your opportunity to make a comment or a statement. It is not the time to go back and forth with council members. Anybody wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, city managers report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to, as you did earlier, just acknowledge and welcome the Garden City High School students that are here. This was definitely a better meeting than your classmates saw 2 weeks ago. But as you get older, just one thing I'd like to say, just keep in mind, it's not till later in life sometimes people get involved in the community and the government. You know, coming to city council meetings, you're not going to come often. I know you're teenagers and you don't care yet. You will as you get older and become a homeowner. School board meetings and other things. The state and federal government certainly affects your life, but it's really in the local government and what you saw tonight that really affects you, your property values, your families, and so on. So just try to stay more engaged than just come tonight and never come back again. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Jacobs, first up.
Just a couple of things. One, I was lucky enough to go see the Garden City Figure Skating Club this past, or last weekend, with their show, Movie Madness. Excellent show, and the instructors and all the participants should be really proud. It was a lot of volunteers, and I know it was a lot of work and a lot of effort they put in. There were kids as young as, I think, 4 or 5 out there, which were really cute. And, but the skating that they did was, I've skated a long time, but I couldn't do it. So it was really good, and they should be proud. Also, one other item, a friend of mine, veteran Mike Dicker, hope you feel better, get well soon, and keep fighting. You're in our thoughts and prayers. That's all.
Okay, Councilmember Squires.
Just a couple of things, I guess. I'm really impressed to see how many kids are here tonight from the high school. I think it's great. You know, it's, I don't know if you learned anything, but if you didn't, at least you were here, and you can let your teachers know. Also, to the police department, I think that Citizen Academy is awesome. You know, job well done. And thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Earl.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to speak on the Citizens Academy as well. I think it's a great program. I hope more citizens get involved, and I think it's going to give you a view of the job that you've never seen before. You're going to learn a lot, and like was stated up here, the police officers learn a lot from the citizens because the citizens see the other side of it. So it's a great program. The thing that I really liked is when I was paying attention to the individuals that went through it's one of the things that speaks great about the city is volunteerism. A lot of the members that went through that academy all volunteer in different ways for the city, and I think that's what makes the city great. There's hundreds and hundreds of volunteers every year doing all kinds of things in the city. So to the citizens, keep it up and stay involved. And then to speak to what the mayor spoke to earlier, please lock your cars, your houses, your garage. Crimes of opportunity lead to bigger and more violent crimes. And there's no reason not to light up the neighborhoods. When you drive down a street and it's completely dark, that's a shame. When I was a kid, we're told to light up your neighborhood. So it's not the times. It's always been stated. I'm sure back in the 1800s it was light a candle in the neighborhood. But please, light it up. It takes away a lot of the opportunities. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
Yes, I wanted to just give a quick report about Shred Day, which was last Saturday. It was quite a successful event. We handled 219 cars, went through in the 3-hour period. One of the big things I think that came out of that was more than 200 pounds of food was donated. It was an entire truck bed of a F-150 truck. Also, we collected $92 in donation for the home pantry and 2 large boxes filled with prescription drugs to be disposed of properly. They won't be on the streets, they'll be disposed of. And I think all in all, it was a good event, and we'll look forward to doing it again November 2nd in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McCarge.
Yes, I recently attended a DDA meeting and a planning commission meeting, and I don't attend them all, just the ones that I hear might be controversial or have some, issues that need to be resolved. And I go to them mainly to listen and learn. So I don't go to really comment. I want to know what's going on. Anyway, I attended a recent planning commission meeting in regards to the old Alberts on the alley. And I just had concerns, and maybe not even answered today, but I'm confused. If a business comes into Garden City, where do they go? Do they go to the building department? Do they go to the planning commission? Do they just do the work and hope for the best? I mean, there's procedures. Do they, and where do they find that out? I know there's got to be certain policy, certain procedures they have to follow.
They would immediately come to the building department first, at which time then they're told, asked about what their plans are. In that situation, they were told directly that they'd have to go to the planning commission for approval of a use that's not specifically stated in the ordinance. If it's stated in the ordinance, a restaurant in a restaurant area, then they just have to go through the process of rebuilding that restaurant or whatever they're doing, get demolition permits and occupancy permits, but nobody really needs to give an okay for something that's allowed specifically in a district. Something that's off kilter a little bit, then it would have to go through the process, and that's what happened there. Yeah.
And that's what I was just kind of confused about. And people have asked me if I wanted that specific business, and I'm not going to get into details, but it's like, it doesn't matter whether I want it or not. It only matters if it follows our rules and regulations. So, but anyway, I just was wondering about that. So, and do we go out to people? Do we go out to businesses? If we know somebody's purchased something, do we go to them and say, I wouldn't even, if I was starting a business in Garden City, I do now, but I wouldn't have 10 years ago known, okay, I got to go to the building department.
Well, we did put it, that was part of the Golden Book. The hope is that looking at that. So certainly residents should know that starting a business. But in general, you need business permits. Only certain territories can you have a business. That's why people won't see liquor stores in the middle of a neighborhood or such. So there are probably some home-based businesses that we're not involved in that we might want to be involved. Some were understanding this past week, potential car dealerships. People are trying to run out of their houses, mainly because the number of cars up and down the street connected to one home. We'll be looking into that today, tomorrow, that we just found out about. But most people know at this point, they come there. A lot of people do just come with the general idea of, I'd like to do something, what does it take? And then we'll go through the steps, the process with them.
Well, I remember years ago, my sister and brother-in-law live in Westland, and my brother-in-law built a garage, and he put the height of the garage too high, and the city came in and made him tear it down. So I know there's ordinances that people have to know to go forward. But I also, at that meeting, at the Planning Commission meeting, I also found out that the DDA is asked to give feedback or recommendations about things that are being done in the DDA CBD area, but they don't always, or they haven't been always getting the paperwork to even do that. So I don't know who's responsible for that. Is the Planning Commission responsible for getting her that information so she, so the DDA, just so that we have a process in place and we know that I would appreciate knowing. But I appreciate council members sent questions to, I assume they sent them to you, and I appreciate you getting the questions back to us. In information on the Planning Commission decisions in regards to this Central Business District Ordinance, which states the Planning Commission ruling cannot be overruled. And I guess that's not the same for other areas and stuff.
No, that's just the CBD.
That's just the
For those
CBD.
decisions. Now, that's not for all ordinances, that's for their interpretation. The city interprets any other business use throughout the city. The CBD technically right now is with advice from the DDA, the Planning Commission would make that decision on available uses in the CBD, but the rest of the city is not the same.
And I know some of the language is up for interpretation, but I just want to make sure that, the ordinances are there for reasons, and if they're not something, if they're not good ordinances, then we need to legally change them. But I know we have boards and commissions for a reason, and if they have a decision if they make a decision that I don't like, the main thing I do is step back and reassess, maybe I'm wrong. And I don't always agree with the boards and commissions, but sometimes they have more information than I have. So I appreciate what they do. Don't always agree with them, but I do appreciate what they do. So try to go to more of those. So on a good note, and the last thing I have to say tonight, The Garden City Garden Club is meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and it's an open meeting. Ken Polson will be talking about daylilies. There's like 1,000 different types of daylilies, not Stelladoros. We won't talk about the Stelladoros. They're nice for downtown, but there's a lot of different kind. It is open to the public, and you're welcome to come attend. And then I'm going to start talking about it, but the Garden Club has an awesome garden walk planned in cooperation or partnership with the Garden City Historical Museum. Stay tuned for more information, and hope everyone enjoys getting out. If it doesn't snow, I hope they're enjoying their yards. Thank you, that's all.
Councilmember Kerwin?
I don't have anything tonight, just shop small and shop local.
Councilmember Lynch?
I have two things. First, I'd like to thank the senior director, her staff, and the police and firefighters who also attended for the lovely Mother's Day tea that we had probably a week and a half ago now. It was just wonderful, and all of the mothers that were there were treated so very specially. So thank you for that. And then I also want to send my condolences on the passing of a longtime friend to many Garden City students and graduates, and a very long-time employee of the Garden City Schools, Mrs. Victoria Brzezinski, and she passed away last week. I know Vicki, as we all knew her, was also a secretary at Garden City West when I went there. So she was around Garden City for quite some time. And I know that her passing is going to be sad for many, many people, and she really will be missed. And that's all that I have.
Councilmember Squires, you had one more thing?
I had one more thing. I just wanted to thank Mr. Miller for the mobile Secretary of State coming on Shred Day. I was able to get an enhanced driver's license on my renewal. And there were quite a few people that we enjoyed talking while we were standing in line. And everybody was so happy that they didn't have to go to the regular.
Oh, yes.
Secretary of State.
So you're not riding your bike anymore?
No.
Okay, I want to say congratulations to the Citizen Academy graduates. And all right, Veterans Day, this Monday, 11 a.m. on the City Hall lawn. Come out and support your veterans. I'm sorry, what did I say, Veterans Day?
Yes.
Memorial Day for the veterans. 11 a.m. on the City Hall lawn. Our guest speaker this year is a former United States Marine and Garden City police officer, Joseph Warner. He is the guest speaker. So come out and support veterans on Memorial Day, 11 a.m. this Monday. That's all I have. No further business. This meeting is adjourned.